Hello everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Khan, I'm your host, and this is episode 25 of my playthrough series with GregTech 5U in adventure game mode. I wish there was an advanced game mode, but yeah. So anyway, in today's episode, I think I'm going to make a large steam boiler. Now, there's actually 4 categories, or 4 tiers, if you will, of these boilers. The bronze, the steel, the titanium, and the tungsten steel. And normally you would start with the bronze boiler. The reason that I didn't, and I haven't made a large boiler up to this point in time, is that I don't really have an efficient way of capturing the steam and using it. And that's primarily because there's no way to store fluids as of yet with just GregTech. And I still don't have a good way of using the steam. But I'm going to make it anyway because even at a lowered efficiency, it will still make a lot of power for me and it'll be very useful. So I am, however, going to skip the bronze boiler and go straight to the steel boiler. Now, it also turns out that there is an achievement related to the large boilers, and it's right, let's see, down here, and it does say start up a large boiler, so I'm hoping that means I can use any large boiler, because I have already made all of the parts for the steel boiler. As I said, I'm skipping the bronze one. So I'm not going to go through all of this. Again, the controller block tells you what the size of it is, what you need to make it, how to put it all together. As I said, I've already made all the parts, so I think I'm just going to put it together and then I'll show it to you when it's completed. All right, so the large steel boiler has been built, and much like any of the smaller boilers, like these high pressure ones, I think they're called that. Yes, the high pressure ones or the solar ones or any of them. The boilers, even a large boiler like this will need a supply of water. So you can see I've built an infinite pool of water here. There's a drain attached to a pipe that will automatically fill this input hatch with water and keep it full of water, which is good. Controller block is here. There is a maintenance hatch as well, which we're going to fix in just a moment. The input bus is where you're going to put in whatever items it is that are going to be burned in the boiler in order to create the steam. And for me, I'm going to be using charcoal, so that will be what goes in here. And again, there is a muffler hatch, which I've put over here on this side, which I may move at some point in time, but for right now, it's okay here. And the muffler hatch, again, as always, must be unblocked. The space next to it must be unblocked, have nothing in it, just empty space. Now, this is a medium voltage muffler hatch. I think here with the electric blast furnace, I think I might have used a low voltage muffler hatch. I don't recall, but I will be upgrading to a newer version of GregTech 5U here pretty soon. And in the new version, the pollution actually is a thing. So the muffler hatch you use, I believe, and I'm not quite certain on this, but I believe if the higher quality muffler hatch you use, the less pollution that particular device will cause. So there it is. And as you can see here from the controller block, I still have all of these problems that need to be fixed in the maintenance hatch. But I thought this might be a good time to look at making some duct tape. So duct tape is sort of this universal catch-all thing. And by using duct tape, you don't have to use all of the individual tools as I've had to do in the past in order to fix the problems. Now, it's, so I guess in some ways it might be marginally better because of that aspect of things, but it's not terribly important, but it is kind of fun to work with. However, I've noticed that the duct tape recipe has changed quite a bit. So you can see here we need some glue in an assembler along with some rubber sheets, which that's not a problem, and some raw carbon mesh. Now the glue itself, I have quite a bit of it here. 26, I didn't even realize I had that much. But the glue actually comes from centrifuging the sticky resin. When you put the sticky resin into a centrifuge, you get the raw rubber dust, which is what I use to make the rubber plates with, as well as the glue. And so you end up with all of this glue anyway. So in a way, you almost might as well use it to make the duct tape. The glue can be used for a few other things as well, but you know, it doesn't really have a whole lot of uses as far as I know. So you might as well use it to make the duct tape. But the complicated part here is this raw carbon mesh, which comes from these raw carbon fibers. It's the only way to make them. And they come from autoclaving some carbon dust along with either palladium, molten platinum, or molten lutetium, or lutetium. I'm going to call it lutetium. I don't know how that's pronounced. What's kind of annoying is that it only requires one liter of it, or whatever that is, where an ingot of it is 144. It's kind of crazy. The difference between these three liquids is that palladium gives you a 90% chance of getting the fiber, platinum only gives you a 50% chance, and lutetium only gives you a 33% chance. So obviously you'd prefer to use the palladium. Problem for me is I don't know how to get palladium or lutetium at this point in time. But I do have platinum right there. Now I don't specifically remember smelting any platinum, so I think that I got platinum from treasure chests throughout the world. I know I have some platinum dust as well, and that probably came from a byproduct of processing different materials. But these actual platinum ingots, I believe, must have come from finding them in treasure chests. So what I need to do now is I need to set things up where you can see that this assembly recipe here requires a medium voltage assembler. And then I also need the autoclave. So I'm going to work on setting those items up, and I will be back when it's ready to go. Alright, so I don't really have enough equipment and machinery and all that, so I'm sort of cannibalizing stuff from various sources. So the first thing I'm going to need is an advanced fluid extractor, because the extracting the fluid out of a platinum does require an advanced fluid extractor. It won't work in a basic one from what I can tell. So that will create the molten platinum, which we will then divert down into this basic autoclave. So let's go like that and put the fluid to output. So this will have the autoclave, and this is where we'll put in whatever that it was that we needed. Let's look up the recipe again. The raw carbon mesh, or the raw carbon fibers. So I need carbon dust for this, and I don't have any direct carbon dust. Do a quick sorting on this, but I have all of these ashes and dark ashes. So with ashes, I think I can put that into a centrifuge and get carbon dust. So let's just go ahead and take a stack of that, and we'll go to... Oh, do I want to use this basic centrifuge? I guess that I do. So let's take this out and put these in. Okay, so that will give me the carbon dust, and 4 of these makes 2 of these if I'm lucky, because again, there seems to be only a 50% chance that it will work. So let's go ahead and put 4 into this autoclave and test it out. See if I get lucky on making the carbon fibers. It's almost done. And I was not lucky, as usual, as we would expect, right? So let's try it again. I'm going to have to do quite a few of these anyway, because we need 3 of those carbon meshes. So let's get this going here. And there we go. We've got 1 success so far. Oops, wrong button. And when I have things a little bit better, I will actually make this into a more streamlined process and dedicated machines to doing this. But for right now, because power is at such a premium, doing anything is somewhat difficult. While this runs, I'll mention that I had an incident with my solar boilers. There was an explosion. And I've said before that if you heat up one of the boilers and then add water to it, it will explode, and that's what happened to me. And also I've been working on and getting some of the achievements, some of the less, you know, the ones that don't really need to be talked about too much. So I've been getting some achievements done as well. Okay, so I have 6 of these raw carbon fibers. And how do I turn that into a carbon mesh? Looks like I can just do that in crafting like so. 3 raw carbon meshes. Now I need 3 of the rubber sheets like so. And then in the assembly machine, I've already got some glue in there. Should be able to combine these and turn that into some duct tape. Do I just get 1? Looks like I could just get 1. So a little bit, you know, complicated, but I guess, you know, complicated more than anything else, but not too terribly expensive. This carbon dust, or these ashes that I'm getting here, these ashes and dark ashes, most of them have come from this byproduct of burning charcoal in these boilers. I get this little bit of ash. And the other ash, I think, comes from the blast furnace. I believe this creates some ash as a byproduct of making the steel from the charcoal. So, and I do believe that there are other ways of getting this dark ash as well. Or I'm sorry, the carbon dust. Looks like you can get it from some charcoal dust and stuff. So it's not an expensive thing, except for maybe the platinum. But again, since I seem to have found a bunch of platinum, that seems to be okay. So with the duct tape, I can go over to the maintenance hatch. Now, if you look here on the controller block, you can see I got all of the problems. Nothing's been fixed. Go here to the maintenance hatch, plop that in it like that. And then you will see, you get this like little duct taped, you know, thing over the maintenance hatch, which I think is kind of funny. And then if we look here, you can see that there are no problems with the boiler at all, which is good. Now, over time, problems will still come up with the machinery, as it does with any of the multi-block machines. You can eventually develop a problem, which you would need to go in and fix. And you can either do that with the tools or with some more duct tape, however you want to do it. But the duct tape, once you get to this point, is kind of handy and kind of neat to be able to just slap that on there and no longer have to worry about or be able to fix all of the maintenance problems with one item. Okay, so the way this works, the steel boiler works, is the water goes into it over here, as we mentioned earlier. And over here, I'm going to be putting in charcoal, and then it will create steam, which will appear in these output hatches. And so I need the steam to go somewhere useful, obviously. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use 4 steam turbines. And that seems to work out fairly well. So I'm going to put one, I'm going to put them like this. So each one of these output hatches will output to each one to these turbines. I'm going to turn the turbines so that their electrical output faces that direction, like so. And then what I'm going to do is I have made a medium voltage battery buffer. And I also need a piece of copper cable. That should do. I don't even think I need that big of a piece of copper cable, but that's okay. It's not going to hurt nothing. So I can put the... I heard a zombie. I can put the battery buffer here, like that. And I can put this piece of copper there. And so all 4 of these turbines will output into this medium voltage battery buffer, which you can see is set up with 9 slots. And I'm going to fill them in like so, with 9 lithium batteries, 9 medium lithium batteries. Now this input bus is the low voltage input bus, so it only takes in 4 slots of materials, if you will. And that's exactly what I want, because I'm going to get 4 stacks of charcoal. 1, 2, 3, 4. And run back over here. Fill this up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as with almost all machinery, we do have to whack it with a mallet to get it started. I don't think I've screwed anything up. Here's hoping. There you go. I did get the achievements for starting up the boiler, so that is good. That's a good sign at least. and it should now be working. If we look here, we'll see this number, this charcoal being burned up and used. And if we look here, we can see that the input hatch, the water is being used, but it is refilling as quick as it is being used. And that's a good sign because, again, you don't want it to run out of water. And you can see now this particular turbine is turning. So if we look here, this output hatch is full. It is putting stuff into this steam turbine. It is full. Once it becomes full, then the next output hatch will start filling, as you can see here. And then once this one becomes full, this one will start turning. Okay? And then once this one is full, this one up here will turn. Now this last fourth one will not turn as much as these other three because the amount of steam being produced is not quite enough to have all four of these running constantly, if you will. In fact, what I should do is if I dig a hole back behind here and come back here, let's go back here and dig out these two lines here. Okay, so we can see here this output hatch is full, and this output hatch, it keeps getting a little bit of steam, but not very much. So if you see, these three will run constantly. This one will just turn every little bit, just a little bit. And again, that is because there's not enough steam to operate all four, only these three in a little bit. The problem is if you only use the three, then you're wasting that little bit of extra steam. So that's why I have four. Now this is going to take some time to run through. Not a whole lot of time. As you can see, it is going through pretty quickly. Now, just so you know, the way the steam boiler works is that it uses up charcoal, it heats up, so the first few bits of charcoal aren't really doing anything other than heating up the internal workings of the machinery. And then it gets to a certain point where it's, fully heated and using the charcoal to create a lot of steam. And then, when you run out of charcoal, you stop producing the steam. So this is why you can't use it too efficiently unless you constantly provide it with charcoal, because once it's heated up and producing large amounts of steam, you would prefer to keep it that way and keep it producing all of that steam. You want to just dump more and more charcoal into it, keep producing as much steam as possible. So I know that I can't use this as efficiently as that because of the limitations of what I'm working with. But even knowing that, I do think that I'm going to get some good benefit out of this. And again, as these things are producing their power from the steam, they will be putting it into these battery buffers here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away and come back when this is done. Okay, so we are getting close to using up the last bit of those 4 stacks of charcoal, and there it goes. So you'll see the machine turn off. Whatever remaining bits of steam will get, turned into power by the turbines. And then when that's done, we're going to check out what we got out of it. And there we go. That's the last of it. All of these are completely empty. And we can see got 9 medium lithium batteries that are almost full, but not quite. You can see I've got about just a little under 340,000 EU for each one of these. But for a short period of time, I did produce quite a bit of power, and that's going to help me out a lot. I can now run some cable from this battery buffer over to my main power source if I want, and use this power to, power everything from all of my machinery to my electric blast furnace to anything else that I may want. And I can easily produce more power when I need to just by dumping 4 stacks of charcoal in there. So again, when this isn't being used, then the boiler is cooling off, which again is not as efficient. So the next time I put in 4 stacks of charcoal, some of that charcoal is used to, heat up the boiler again and not produce power. So it's in some ways a little bit wasteful, but again, without a good way of storing steam or excessive amounts of power, it's just something I have to live with. But I still think it's a fairly good trade-off for the amount of power that I am producing. But there you go, the large steam boiler, the large steel steam boiler. I can't even get it all in here because I'm going to fall into my hole. But yes, there it is. And that is going to do it for this episode. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them for me in the comment section down below. If you know that I am doing something terribly, terribly wrong, please let me know. I basically tried this and it seems to work pretty good. So it's all that I know, but I'm definitely not an expert and I definitely don't know what I'm doing. So always let me know if there's a better way to be doing things. As always, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.